ready to the countdown.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are live with Molly and Emma today. It's not the full glass table, but it's some of the glass table. It's some of us now. Y'all see our new setup and where our little logo in the corner? Look at Emma's screen, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
I figured it out. You have to, it's not a PNC, it's a PNG, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a PNG that does that. Like clears off the background. You showed me that, Emma.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I figured it out. So we got a little floating little stuff today. So we're streaming on my page today, on XJW Cafe page, the Glass Table page, and YouTube channel, and we should be streaming in your group. I'm hoping. If not, can we start sharing the streams to let everybody know that we're on. I'm gonna share. So we're taking this time out to share the stream. Please take out this time to share the stream too, people. Give us a second here. And you know, I should check our comments too to make sure our comments come in, because that's a thing now.
I can't see us in my group.
If I look to the side, that's my rabbit.
You know what? I don't have it in a group. So what should I take off? I'm gonna take off the SJW Cafe page and stream there now. I just learned how to do this, Emma.
Ooh.
Wow.
I know.
Awesome.
I'm getting sweet with
I'm
StreamYard.
proud of you, hon.
I know. Remember, I didn't know how to do none of this stuff, y'all.
I'm super proud of you.
So we'll remove that. And right in the middle of the stream, bam, there you go. You should see it now, Emma. It's going to cut off the very beginning, but it's going to start like right at the end. I mean, right now. It should start now. And so you guys, hey Lester, what's going on? Lester saying hi. This is not our normal day. We were supposed to be taking a break. This was supposed to be our self-care break, but it's been more of a planning break. So we're in front of the we just can't get enough of y'all. Is that what it is? Live, going live or something like that. I see you guys slowly rolling in. I'm trying to let you guys roll in before I start. The Glass Table says hi to everybody.
That's supposed to be. Come on.
Oh, was that you? All right, so you guys, we're gonna go ahead and get into the stream because we're not gonna hold you all day because this is our working weekend. Let's start with, before we actually begin. Look, Emma, I had to make coffee today because I ran out of wine, but whatever.
Oh, that's a shame.
I got my cups, and we have new cups. Emma's working on.
No,
I haven't seen it. Oh, they got my skin color right too and everything. I'm loving it.
And then there's this one where it wraps all the way around the mug.
Oh, now that is sweet. I want both of them. Molly, we're gonna go broke. we were.
Stop making us broke by showing us your pigmented makeup.
I know.
And
makeup and mugs. We can't get away from it. I'm always told us makeup and mugs.
Yeah.
But I'm not just getting mugs. You know, I'm about to get a T-shirt.
Five
so I'm gonna have my T-shirt.
You've got an order.
Hopefully, I see y'all rolling in. Keep on rolling in, and y'all can get your comments in early because we're gonna be talking a lot here. Hey, Mel. Oh, you don't have no Kingdom Hall jokes today, or Circuit Assembly jokes, or baptism jokes?
Maybe he's run out.
All right, so guys, we have a special guest here today. You know them. You should know him. If you don't, I don't know why you don't. One of them is actually going to be on our favorite YouTuber show because he's my pick as a favorite YouTuber, and he has the funniest memes on Instagram, y'all. I'm not stealing your memes, Matt, but I'm stealing your memes.
No, that's okay. Please spread the gospel of apostasy. I love it.
Right, you just changed your handle on
Amen.
Twitter.
Did I?
It was Big Apostate Energy 2020.
Oh
I thought.
yeah. I changed my name. I put it to apostate Skywalker.
Hey, that's cool. I'm a big Star Wars nerd. So,
Yeah.
there you go. There go Mel. Be modest and walking with your guy. I knew it was coming. Hey, you guys, you are new. We haven't seen you on the stream before here in Revolutionary in Minnesota. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And
Well,
go ahead.
maybe I should ask him for advice because wine is my god. So how do I walk with wine? Carefully so I don't spill it.
You have to be modest. They always telling women to be modest.
Right.
And just started talking about tight pants, but for a long time, we used to get the beat down in the meetings. Ain't that right, Ramona? We have Ramona online with us today. And we have STZ from SJW Cafe and our TGT Glass Table Jeopardy host. We will be talking about that.
How's it going, guys?
I'm all about the plug, y'all. I'm all about the plug. So we got a great show today. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Before we begin, this is kind of a somber occasion where we're meeting together. I think the last time we boo-hooed and cried was during the Memorial.
Yeah.
That's the last time I remember having candles, which I'm about to have here. We're gonna have. I don't have our little show guide up today. I didn't get a chance to make it because we actually it was impromptu. We have been talking about it, right, Emma? Among ourselves and crying and boohooing amongst ourselves. And Emma said, "Hey, why don't we just, why Emma? Why did you feel like it was important to you for us to kind of do this today?"
Well, watching the lives for the last 3 days, literally made me so emotional. And then I thought maybe we should. I know we were supposed to have this weekend off, but I thought it was a really important subject to cover.
Yeah.
So I just, I was like, should we do it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And again, we were kind of working anyway, so don't feel like it was, but it's not putting us out the way because we're talking about it anyway. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody, right? Matt, you're in New York, right? So you are in the war of it all. And then Ramona, STZ, and we're in Michigan, so we on lockdown. Big Gretch, as we call her, she keep every time STZ try to go back to work, she be like, not yet. And we like, okay, we need some money now.
Yeah. Did anybody see the picture of her with the buff glasses on that they finally got her?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, she took a picture. Well, it's actually a video she uploaded telling everybody to stay home, but she said she put the glasses on and then told everybody to stay home. Like, all right, big Gretch. You know that they were fundraising to get her a pair of Cartier glasses.
Oh, you people!
Oh, really?
I can't stand some people in some certain communities.
Yeah.
I would say that.
I bought my T-shirt that say "I stand with that woman from Michigan."
Oh yeah, that woman. Oh
yeah, I got the T-shirt. I wish I had it here right now.
Hey, I don't know who you are, Facebook user, but since you're on the live, he says or she says it is so horrible to see everything going on back home. So I'm assuming you're from one of the states that are affected. But let's talk about why you're a Facebook user. I get a chance to say that. StreamYard, or the application that we use, requires you to register your name with them. We're not asking you to do that. But if you want your name to show up on the screen, not with the mysterious man in the corner and saying Facebook user, you'll want to register your name. So it'll show up like Mel, who trolls us with Jehovah's Witness tropes all day long on our lives. Anyway, that's for you, Mel. Yeah, so the trending topic today is police brutality and the riots. So if you're looking at the ticker below, if you have any comments or you want to holler at us, just let us know in the comment section, or you can click the link to join us by audio or video. We kind of got a full house today. We'll try to get to as many people as we can. This person is saying you did register, maybe you didn't do it right. Sometimes it takes a time to kick in, and it might not kick in to the next time you join us. So make sure you join us next time. If it doesn't. Hey, Linda Carmel, who's joining us again. She joined us from the Makeup and Chat earlier.
Hi, Linda.
Nice to see you again. All right.
It might be that person I've just checked is from my group. So maybe because it's in my group, it's closed. So maybe they have to come on. Is it which one's open to the public? The live, the glass table?
The glass table or the YouTube?
So if they come to the glass table or the YouTube page, that's open to the public. The live is, so then it should pick up their names then. I think it's because the group is closed.
I forget about that. So if you are in a closed group, your comments won't show up for privacy reasons. So like Emma said, hit YouTube or go to our glass table page. We'd rather you go to the YouTube. We try to get our subscribers up, so that'd be cool. While you're there, and hit the notification bell. Hey Alvin, you gonna be nice to me today? Hey Alvin.
Hi Alvin.
Alvin is from the UK, right?
Yes.
Right. All right. So we got
a full used to live in the US.
Oh, you know what? I'm always trolling him, telling him to mind his business when he's talking about Trump because he ain't from here. I never knew that he was from the U.S. Okay, I'm sorry about that, Alvin. I'm still saying it because you don't live over here. So let's go ahead and get started. What Alvin's saying, y'all? I'm always nice. Yeah, okay. Emma has put together this show, y'all. I mean, we showed up, but Emma literally got all these clips together. Got all these pictures together. A lot of them I'm going to be seeing for the very first time. So I've actually, like I told you and Molly, I've been closing myself off from everything because I can't take another black man getting killed over this. And I wanted to have black men on the panel. That's why we have Matt and STZ. Because I tell STZ all the time, STZ will tell you, I fear for him leaving out the house all the time. I've always, even when we were dating, it was just always a thing. We would get stopped by the police. You know, remember that time we got stopped in Grosse Pointe? We had Tim Hortons.
Well, actually, it was not Grosse Pointe, but a different city. Same city we lived in.
And, well, you know how they are over here.
We were on our way, I think, anyway. But yeah, they pulled us over and asked, like, we stopped. It was early in the morning. It had to be like about 2:00, and we stopped to get coffee, and we were gonna just take a drive, down by the water.
And I was like, STZ, I don't want to drive out here because they're gonna stop us. STZ like la 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 la. So here we go.
No, I'm not gonna. Go ahead, you telling it better.
No, you tell it better.
No, but anyway, a cop pulled us over and asked us what did we have in our coffee cups. Naturally, we said coffee, and he was just like, okay, well, I pulled you over because. I guess you were all over your lane or whatever. And I'm like, I thought I had my lane to be in and drive in, but anyway, he was just pulling us over. I mean, that happened a lot, in the particular city in which we lived. I remember getting stopped on my street across from my house. Like, I mean,
that happened to me. I got stopped for a SpongeBob. He said it was distracting me, and as we was talking, this old lady with a bunch of Beanie Babies and a bunch of crap in her windshield rolled. But I'm like, what about? He like, what about you? But anyway, we ain't gonna talk about that because I did go to jail that day. But that's something else, right?
I've been stopped twice by the police too. No apparent reason whatsoever, just driving because of the color of my skin. And I've been stopped in my neighborhood because when I moved in my neighborhood, I was the only one this color. Yep, and and asked, what am I doing over here? So.
And then I moved. We moved to we were one of the first blacks that moved to a suburban all white hall. We used to have congregation talks all the time about them trying to force the people of non-color. We're just gonna say white people and black people today, y'all, because I can't keep up. But to force them to work with us out in front of field service. And then eventually
that happened to me too.
The circuit overseer came and broke the congregation up. It was and then a lot of it wasn't just the white people were scared. I mean, they weren't used. They were moved in the neighborhood. Yeah. What
was it? That shepherd that broke up your Kingdom Hall? Yeah. Shepherd. His last name was Shepherd. Yes. He broke ours up too, and he put us in the white Kingdom Hall.
Yeah. Well, it was like we ended up staying, but it was Shepherd though. See, we from the
Yep.
same hood, y'all. But the white people, some of the white friends, I will call them friends, I guess, because that's what they call themselves. They were families. There was like a big family there. Like they was cousins and nieces, and it was like some big ski trip where their children, you know, I guess it was doing orgy stuff. I don't know. That was the rumor. They didn't get disfellowship for it. They all got private recruit, but the children of the black families got disfellowship.
Wow.
And so you make the guesswork here. You can't say for sure, oh, they were racist, but or maybe it was nepotism. But it was clearly we done already gave talks at this hall about y'all racism, and then now this happens. So it was just wasn't a good look, no matter what it was. So Matt, you from
elders?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ramon.
The elder's wife came up to me when we got switched into their Kingdom Hall, and she introduced herself to me, and she asked me, how did it feel growing up in the neighborhood with prostitutes and drug addicts and gangbangers? Because she assumed because color my skin, that's how I grew up. And I looked at her, I said, I did not grow up in that environment. I said, what made you assume that? She said, you don't have to lie to me. I understand it's a sensitive topic for people like you because you guys grow up that way.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Matt, you from New York, from the town where we got Jay-Z, we got what else? We got 50 from New York.
Yeah, I'm from Southside Jamaica, Queens, like 50 Cent.
Oh, you know, 50 said he run New York though.
Yeah, whatever.
So tell us, you are in the like epicenter of where the war of Corona is happening.
Yeah.
Like I saw them taking bodies out, like and put them in mass graves. I was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, where I work, I actually work right across the street from a cemetery, and I've never seen it this active. Like literally every day, you know, you see so many funerals going on, and you know, people are at grave sites and they have to be, you know, socially distant from each other. It's pretty sad. It's really sad to see how many hearses I see every day.
So tell us, are people writing? Is it all on your TV? I mean, it's.
Oh yeah, definitely. In Brooklyn, there was a huge protest yesterday, right out front of Barclays Stadium with a Brooklyn Nets play. Huge protest. You know, a lot of people were arrested. You know, they firebombed a police van. Like it was huge. Yeah.
I saw it on the news. Yeah, I saw it. They did.
Ramona, you said that they might be posting somewhere in our neck of the woods.
I'm still looking into that.
Okay.
But they did do it yesterday in Bay City and Flint. They had the protest in Bay City and Flint yesterday.
Oh, that's not that far from you.
No.
All right. So, Emma, you got some footage. I'm gonna show these videos in groups of 3. Don't just because I just wanted to capture what we're looking at. Emma, why don't you tell us what you're looking at? And because I've been shielded off from everything, this is the first time I'm looking at this footage too. So
last night I started watching some lives from Atlanta, and I missed the beginning though. So I missed because they literally you'll see they ruined the CNN building. So I kind of came on after all that started. So what I did this morning is I caught up from the beginning of the live, and then I took screen recordings because the other lives I watched from Minnesota the past 2 days have all been took down. So I took screen recordings before these were took down as well.
Good job. Emma is like CNN reporting for the glass table. Come on now, girl. Go ahead. They better give you a job and pay you for this, because they don't pay us on the glass table. That's for sure. Here we go. I'm going to drop a link below in the comments. If you have your own stories from around the world, you could come in and join us for a few. I am going to go to the first video. You know they're not in order, Emma, but here's the first one.
Y'all, look at this. Look at it. It's crazy. I mean, he said Levita. He finna throw it. Look, y'all. He got his arm ready. These folks is out here really tripping. Like, this supposed to be fucking peaceful. This is not peaceful. And this is not peaceful at all. Look at him. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Oh! They just cracked it again. Oh! He said, I'm about to pull up. Oh!
That's the CNN building.
I have a question. Could I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Why were they protesting CNN when the reporter was from CNN that was arrested along with the crew? What was the
CNN
issue?
reporter was arrested?
Yeah. That's in the slideshow as well. He got arrested live on air.
He had credentials. He had a show going on, and they still arrested him.
For what?
He was saying, "I will move back as far as you need me to," and
just for being a person of color.
Apparently, CNN has been putting out fake news, and that's why they turned on CNN.
What is CNN?
But it's not fake news. It's not fake news. CNN is not putting out fake news.
Apparently they covered something up. I was trying to look into that earlier, that they hadn't been 100% honest, and that's why people got annoyed with them.
No, that's you hearing the other side of the story that support Trump is the reason why they're saying CNN is
because Trump does a different narrative for people overseas, but
yeah, and you're hearing the wrong narrative. CNN has been reporting the news exactly as is. The reason why the CNN reporter was arrested was because he was a person of color, because there was another broadcaster who was not of color who were able to continue with their broadcast that were standing next to this reporter. So this was personal.
Mm-hmm. I hear that they're trying to incite some of this stuff, but some of like police officers and stuff. But I guess we'll get to
the pictures as well. Yeah.
Okay, well, I won't jump. So
and videos.
Okay.
So the videos.
All right. I'm going to calm down right now.
There was a. I'm sorry. I'm gonna just jump in. There was a report of a business owner in Minneapolis, and he had like it was like a Middle Eastern restaurant called like Gandhi Mahal, and he had, before the riots even broke out, he had turned his restaurant into a shelter for those people who were displaced and whatever. But now during the riots, his building got burned down, and so when he found out about it, I'm gonna read this quote. He said, "We won't lose hope. I'm grateful for our neighbors who did their job to best protect the restaurant as best they could. Don't worry about us. We'll rebuild and we'll recover. Let my building burn. Justice needs to be served."
Wow. That's profound. See, that's somebody laying it out on the line. I don't know if y'all familiar or y'all remember the riots. Oh, well, I don't remember the riots because number one, I'm not that old. But I'm just referring to the 60 riots here in Detroit. They almost burned our city to the ground. And it's still remnants and shadows and ghosts from the riots here. And then now I was a little bit young to remember the Rodney King riots. I remember watching that all on TV when I was younger, and I just thought to myself, like, and that's when we remember when Rodney King got beat up, by the police.
I was a teenager.
Yeah. But unfortunately, like, that emotion is something that the news tries to convey, but they really can't convey that spirit that's going on in that area. Like, you can look on TV and you can see the destruction. Like, it looks needless and it looks like it's just people just out looting. But sometimes, and this goes back in history of a lot of riots, sometimes the only way to get people's attention, sometimes it's to destroy things that mean something to them. And I think that's what you see a lot of people sometimes, like, the only way that, we can get your attention, that, the lives of our sons and the lives of our children matter, is to destroy a building. This building can be replaced one day. One day it will be replaced. Insurance will cover it. Something to happen. But the lives of, George Floyd, the lives of so many others, they're just gone. And until we can have a conversation, or we can get to a point where, people can be held accountable. Like, I read another article today, and it's mentioned how police officers have a built-in immunity almost in violating our civil rights. And in 1982, we kind of passed this into law to give them that ability to be able to just to infringe upon our rights if they feel as though they're protecting the rights of others. And I mean, it's going out of control.
Yeah,
but go ahead, Matt.
STZ makes a great point there, because a lot of times people will see the riots on television. They'll say, how can these people do these destructive things? But what a lot of people don't realize is these people know their communities. They know what these businesses do and don't do. Specifically, when we consider Minnesota, that Target that they burnt down was a Target that was well known for discriminating against Black people. And Target is Minnesota is the home of Target, Minneapolis. And at that specific Target store is where they test out a lot of their loss prevention things. That's what they call it. And they do a lot of discriminating against the impoverished in the neighborhood. And, even going past Minnesota, if we look in the past, 2015, the Baltimore uprising after Freddie Gray was murdered, the CVS that got burnt down, again, was a CVS that was well known for discriminating against Black people, didn't want to employ Black people. So it's not like these people are just needlessly breaking in and burning down places. Of course, there's always some opportunistic people that will do that. But for the most part, these people know what they're burning down, and they know who they're taking revenge against.
That's a good point, Matt. Can I also say that, and Ramona can attest to this, we had protesters, white protesters, going to a Capitol with guns and did not get messed with here. You know what I'm saying?
Bazookas.
And bazookas. And that if that was one of us, it would be a different story. We can't take a gun out on up to a Capitol building. Are you crazy? And then on top of that, to go back to what STZ is saying, they was protesting because they want to go back to work. So we understand where to hit people when protesters, when this stuff happens, you hit them with their money, you hit them with their business, you burn on their money.
Exactly.
That's the only way
they wanted haircuts. And they wanted haircuts. That's what they were protesting. They didn't want to wear masks. They wanted haircuts. And they were comparing them not being able to get haircuts and had to wear masks and not be able to go to work to slavery. Really?
Yeah, and on that point too, I'm thinking about the people in Michigan. All of these white people were armed like in militias at the State House. And as Spencer said, we all know what would happen if it was Black people. And that's why today I wore my Black Panther shirt, because in the 1960s in California, the Black Panthers came fully armed to the State House. And that's when you got some of the first gun control laws in California and in the country. So that just, underscores the point that there are two different sets of laws. And it may, to some people, they may think that America is a meritocracy and, oh yeah, we have civil rights laws, everybody's treated the same. Sure, in theory, but nowhere close to that in, practical application. Black people are treated with a level of discrimination that is just blatantly obvious. And at this point, if you're denying it, you're clearly just being a bootlicker for the government. That's all it is.
Or, this all lives matter. Please don't do no all lives matter today, because you will get booted. And let me tell you why. Me and my husband was talking about this earlier, or me and Ramona. I think it was me and you, Ramona. All lives have always mattered. All lives have always mattered.
As long as it wasn't brown.
Exactly. And I'm just gonna keep it real. A lot of people who are migrate here from other countries who are Black, because Black people just call you Black. You're not sons and daughters of slaves. So the history is different. You come over here, and yes, you get treated just like us, but at the same time, they get a little upset about us using the N-word in our community. Other things, that they stand with, people of non-color on these issues. Oh yeah, you need to get up behind your bootstraps. Yeah, the Black Americans are lazy. All of the caricatures that you guys have been seeing for years and decades over screens that come over, from a long time. For a long time, they were calling us pickaninnies and Negroes and niggas, and not niggas, niggers with the hard R.
Yeah.
In this country, and I can't tell you how many times I've been called that in my lifetime, and I don't live anywhere near the civil rights era that my grandfather, who stomped these streets and used to see people in Louisiana hanging from trees. Now, I didn't have that experience. I didn't have to walk through back doors.
I've seen black men hanging from trees because I was born in 1970, so it's right around when the civil rights was passed in 1964, and so I can remember as a little girl we were headed to Arkansas because that's where I'm from. And on our way to Arkansas, there was a black man hanging from a tree who had been hung and burned. And I heard my mom told me to lay down in the back seat, but I'd already seen it, because she didn't want me traumatized. I was a young girl at that point. So, and this was probably 1976, 77, when this black guy had been hung and burned.
Can I say, STZ, do you remember that exhibit that we went to in the African American History Museum here? It was an exhibit here called Without Sanctuary. It displayed, I'm getting emotional as we speak, y'all. I do not want to cry on the screen.
Yeah. Back when I had a really religious mind, like seeing the hatred that those people experience just for the color of their skin, only way I could equate that to was like a spiritual demonic attack. You know what I'm saying? Like back when I was in a religious mind, that's the only way I could make that make sense. Today, like without that in my mind, like that hatred that they could have to just want to destroy, dominate, and dismantle an entire civilization of people was just like mind-boggling. Like you could have that amount of evil in your heart, that amount of greed, that you were just again decimate an entire country just so that you can have a force here because you don't want to pick your own cotton. I mean, that was mind-boggling.
And it was so profound because, okay, thank you, SCZ, because I'm about to get here boo-hoo crying. It was so profound to see these pictures. The pictures that they had were pictures from white people's family albums of people that were burnt on trees, hung on trees. This was a spectacle where white people would bring their children, because it was children in the audience, and they would say, let's hang us a nigger today. And they would be burning from the trees. And these pictures were in photo albums. They had to go, and some of these white people gave it up willingly, and some people, they almost had to sue for these pictures because they kept them. They would take pictures. The news. Can you imagine CNN taking pictures? And then they buying these pictures from the newspaper later.
It was like a cookout when they would.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about police brutality and the way that these people would get kidnapped. It was the police force that would go out and go kidnap us. It was not our own. It wasn't just random white people. It was the police that would go get us.
Well, Spencer, you know that the law enforcement was not originally created for people of non-color. It was created specifically during slavery in order to do exactly this: go arrest the black people, charge them with false crimes, and then have the hangings. They will put those posters on throughout trees and everything in order to invite everybody to a hanging. So law enforcement from the very beginning was in order to terrorize the black people. They wanted to get rid of us because when we were no longer working for free, they wanted us gone, and they still do.
Right.
Can I just say something you mentioned not long ago about the All Lives Matter? Now, I'm going to say here, a few years ago, I was saying that because I was uneducated. And then somebody said to me, look up systematic racism. And I was like, what's that? So I looked into it and educated myself. And I was like, whoa, shit, that is out of order. And I watched some videos on it and I was so angry. And I think some people that probably use that phrase probably were like me. They don't realise like what's actually going on, so they kind of like, well, all lives matter. But then since I've looked into it, I'm just like, okay.
But see, Emma, you went to the extra step because sometimes you can educate people and they still do it. Right. And that's infuriating as an African American that you are just saying it just because, man, I know you probably didn't got that. All lives matter.
All the time, but my response every time I hear all lives matter is stay on topic, right? We said Black Lives Matter. We're talking about Black lives. If we were talking about a disease and we had a 5K to raise money for cancer research, would it make sense to come in and say, hey, well, what about AIDS? No.
Right.
because we're talking about cancer right now. So it's the same thing. When we say Black Lives Matter, it doesn't mean, Asian lives don't matter. It doesn't mean white lives don't matter. No, stay on topic. We're talking about Black folks right now. And if you want to make a statement about, if you feel that there are white lives that are not being taken care of, or Asian lives or Latinx lives or whatever, you make that statement. But right now, we're talking about Black folks.
Absolutely. And the numbers don't lie. Like, I mean, I was reading something earlier today. It said that a Black person is three times more likely to die than a white person dealing with police. It also said another stat was, I'm trying to draw it back to my mind. I'm sorry, bear with me. It said that 24% of Black people, 24% of those, of the killings that the police were responsible for, 24% were Black, even though they only make up 13% of the country.
Yeah.
I mean, and
I heard that.
That's a huge number. Like, a quarter of the murders the police are responsible for are by 13% majority membership of the country. Like, you're over focusing on them, you're over targeting them, you're showing careless, wanton, reckless. You're not following guidelines. And the problem with Black people that we have is that we're not saying every cop is bad. We're not saying every cop is racist. But if you have 1,000 good cops and you have 10 bad cops, and those 1,000 good cops don't say anything about those 10 bad cops,
I read that.
They just adhere to the brotherhood, then you have 1,010 bad cops.
Let me just say something. My grandfather used to say this because he came migrated from the south to the north to get a job, but he used to always say that, "Look, baby, there are some places that I still won't go in Mississippi. There are some places I still won't go in Louisiana." That's what he used to call Louisiana. But he used to tell me some of these cops, they in the blue coats, used to call them the boys in blue. He said the boys in blue then took off the blue coats and they then put on the white sheets. That's all they've done. And I think when you have that racism that close, that civil rights movement that close to your era, like our grandparents are still traumatized from that era. My grandfather still to this, rest in peace, even though he was a civil rights activist and a political activist here and well known here. He still would not feel comfortable walking through foreign doors. And when he would see a white person, it was yes, sir, yes, ma'am. But then when they would leave, of course, he would talk about them. But that's what Black people will have to do. We used to have to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am to even a white person that was a child. You know what I'm saying? We had to yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, and then talk about them later, because that was what we used to do on the plantations. Anyway, so I got a few other videos that we're gonna show. We can talk about this all night, y'all.
This is, oh my gosh, y'all. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. This man is skateboarding. Shit gonna blow up.
You can hear someone say, "Hey, this guy's a police officer right here."
Okay. So that's the cop. And this pizza guy, who looks to be a good Samaritan, is actually his buddy, another provocateur acting agent. Yep. So they're both buddies. Okay.
I zoomed in. I'll zoom out a little bit. Those cops will come for you if you're pulling that crap.
And this unicorn guy stream, that guy's questionable.
Was that an AutoZone?
Yeah, looks like it.
All right.
Y'all, look at this. Look at it. It's crazy. I mean, he said Levita.
So we're gonna go to our last video that's gonna take us to the this, and then Emma, you could tell us a little bit about what we saw. I just want to say that this is devastating to me because I've been shielding myself from it. When I saw the picture of the cop kneeling on the guy's neck, I knew it was another black man story that I did not want to read. I just literally just a guy was gunned down for jogging like a few weeks ago, and I'm thinking like again. So Emma, I know I flashed through those really quick, but what stuck out to you, and why did those so important?
Well, I remember seeing the live and saw that dude all in black with a gas mask on and an umbrella, and he stuck out like a sore thumb. And I was thinking, how has he come to that protest so prepared compared to everybody else? And then obviously it came out later on, apparently he was an undercover cop. And he's the one that started smashing the windows first. And then there was a dude in a pink t-shirt that came up to him, a pizza guy apparently, trying to stop him. And then they went off and it looked like the cop was going to smash cars, and people were like, no, no, no. And then him and the pink t-shirt guy had an argument, and then you can hear someone shouting, are you a cop? But then further down the street, they walk off together. And then they show footage that they both walked into the protest together. So it was like, what's going on there? So apparently they were both cops putting on a show, but it was his ex-wife that outed him and said it was her gas mask, her gloves, and she knew exactly who he was. And they found out he was a police that was smashing the windows first.
Get out of here. So what about this here? What's happening?
I think that was another police car because they just started trashing after that. All the police cars just basically got trashed. Spencer disappeared.
We lost our host.
Can I just say about, those people who say that destroying your community won't bring these people back? You know what? Destroying the ships when you wanted to secede from the British rule didn't bring your dad back, yet you went and did it. Like, honestly, I think white people all need to do better, including myself, because guess fucking what? I'm white. As much as I empathize and I sympathize and I try my damnedest and utmost to understand what y'all are going through, I never will, for the sheer fact that I don't go through that. Like, I think once people get it through their head that they won't feel the fear you do, that they won't see their family dead, even close relatives like your grandparents or great-grandparents, you cannot imagine that. And I think people need to get it through their heads that they won't. Like, they just need to, like Emma said, educate themselves and get better at understanding others.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Molly. And I had looked up a couple of Martin Luther King quotes before we came on, and the reason being is because when these kind of riots and protests happen, people love to bring up Martin Luther King, like, oh, he was so nonviolent, and like they infantilize his message to try and pacify Black people. But there's this one Martin Luther King quote that really, speaks to this situation. And he said, I must say tonight that a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. It has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice and humanity. So a lot of people, they think of Martin Luther King as just some docile preacher who was all about peace and turn the other cheek. But Martin Luther King was a lot more radical than people, like to paint him to be. And he made very clear that, yes, we shouldn't be destroying things, but why are the people destroying things? Why are they so angry? That's what we should be focusing on.
Right. At this point in the stream, we're going to look at a news clip and then that Emma got together for us. But before we want to let we do that, actually, I can't talk, y'all. Before we do that, I want to thank you so much, STZ, for coming on here.
Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoyed it.
sharing your thoughts here. Please come back. I know you're supposed to host the Glass Table Jeopardy game for us, which I hope we're getting our questions in because I plan to win.
Definitely looking forward to it. Make sure you guys, submit those questions so we can go ahead and get that going.
All right. So thank you so much. And did you have any last words before you went?
No, just generally, like we said, as far as the riots and stuff going on. I mean, they say when you tear up your own stuff, it's what's known as stupid tax. And sometimes you can see it in a relationship where one, spouse may get mad at another one and may tear up their stuff or do something. And sometimes it's the most basic response that you can have when you feel unheard, when you feel undervalued. And as a people, Black people in this country, that's been made apparent. That's been made that clear that our lives in some circles are completely undervalued. And until we have a conversation where we can begin to educate everybody involved about how everyone should be treated equally, everyone should be treated fairly, no person's right should become before another, we're going to continue having this quote unquote stupid tax. We're going to keep having riots. We're going to keep having people raising their voices above the level of the law, above the level of decency until their cries are heard. What binds Black people in this country together was an injustice. What sometimes binds the overprivileged in this country is, that mentality that they're greater than. So until these two halves come together, we're going to unfortunately keep having situations arise that are happening, all around the world.
All right, STZ. Thank you for your last few minutes, and we look forward to your new video. If you haven't seen STZ's channel, he's gonna actually have starting a gamer channel with his son, which that should be interesting. And then the bike riding, that was pretty cool. Make sure you stop at stop signs though.
No promises.
They gonna get you. They gonna get you one day. Yes, they are. Somebody gonna get you. They gonna see you driving, riding the bike like that. Anyway, I will talk to you later.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, see you later.
Bye.
You want me to kick you out? Oh, there we go. I get to say that. I was joking. So we're gonna go to this last clip here, and this actually is gonna kick us off to the slides. Emma, this was the first time I actually saw this before we came. This is one of the videos that I saw before we came on screen. I guess they had made the arrest, and why did it take so long? I guess we'll talk about that. But here we go.
That former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin is in custody. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has been charged by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office with murder and with manslaughter. Questions?
Yes, what charge of?
He has been charged with third-degree murder. We are in the process of continuing to review the evidence. There may be subsequent charges later. I failed to share with you a detailed complaint will be made available to you this afternoon.
He sounded like, okay, he got manslaughter in third degree. What else do you want?
Do you know third degree? I looked that up, and that's on the same level as if you gave somebody drugs and they died from it. It's on that level. And you get that from kneeling on somebody's neck.
I saw a meme where, I don't know, Black people, we circulate memes, this type of meme anyway. This is where I got it from, where Kaepernick is kneeling, and then it's another stark scene of this guy kneeling on this Black man. It's like, I thought kneeling wasn't okay. Like, we can't protest and kneeling, and now we protesting this. What can we do? The government don't want you protesting, period. But you can't protest like Martin, like you said, Matt, that they try to make him more docile than he is. They want to make us all like Malcolm X, who also said, by any means necessary.
Right. And you know what? It's funny that you brought up Malcolm X, because I was looking up some Malcolm X quotes too. He had this really interesting quote. He said, "You don't have a revolution in which you love your enemy. and you don't have a revolution in which you are begging the system of exploitation to integrate you into it. Revolutions overturn systems, revolutions destroy systems. And so, Malcolm X is seen as the radical in the civil rights movement. And a lot of people, saw him as so dangerous because of that. But there's so much sense in that statement. You can't beg your oppressor, hey, please, treat me right, treat me right. It doesn't work like that because they clearly don't care. I mean, as you discussed, Spencer and Ramona, our grandparents have been dealing with this for ages. Our ancestors going back, for centuries have been dealing with this, and the oppressor hasn't let up. So the time for asking, hey, please be nice to us, sorry, I'm done with that. I'm not going to feel bad about places being looted and rioted if a guy kneeling on someone's neck can't even be considered first-degree murder. Sorry.
Hey, but listen to this though, Matt. I forgot that quick. Anyway, maybe I should stop doing off-screen activities. How about this? So speaking of off-screen activities and people knowing I do off-screen activities, Ramona, we talked about earlier about Kaepernick. Why do some white people just cannot stand him? Stand this dude. He's not Malcolm X by any means, but he's getting painted like that.
That's okay. You and I spoke about this, and my neighbor, he came under one of my comments, and he wanted to bring up him and said that the only reason why he was kneeling was for his own selfish motives in order to bolster himself out in the front and make money off of this. And I'm like, are you freaking serious? This man lost his job completely. No one would hire this man. This man has been called everything but the child of God. But you telling me he did this for selfish motives in order to prop himself up and elevate himself, but yet number 45 and go over here and call this man a son of a bitch, and say that, disparaging things about people like him, saying what they need to be shot and everything. Right. And it's okay for number 45 to say this about somebody protesting about police brutality. This is where white people in America will take a narrative and twist it into something it is not. Because Kaepernick, his protest was never about his own selfish motive. It was to draw attention to why should we as Black people put our hands over our hearts and say, our country, 'tis of thee, a sweet land of liberty, when we are not liberated in America. We are prisoners. Because if we go outside that house every time we leave our home, it could be a death sentence by those who are in blue, who said they serve and protect us. No. And I don't care if you're a Black man or a Black woman. We all are scared.
And because go ahead,
Matt. Point. It's funny. Everyone now, the people who are opposed, they're like, oh well, they're rioting, they're looting. This is terrible. They should be nonviolent. What was Kaepernick's protest? Nonviolent.
Nonviolent.
He was silent, nonviolent. All he did was take a knee. But now, hey, we need to be nonviolent. We need to silently protest. But when Kaepernick did that, the problem.
And Matt, doesn't our Constitution gives us a right to civil protest, nonviolent protest? Wasn't that what he was doing, was nonviolent protest? But this man lost his job for his nonviolent protest. They found some way to get rid of him.
And not only lose his job, but they made it where he couldn't get a job nowhere else in the NFL. How about that? And then when he went to go try out, remember? The little fake out tryout that they had, and then they go say, "Oh, the NFL tried to spin this narrative. Oh, we tried to throw you a freaking bone here," and he looking like, "I don't have to. After all this time, I don't have to. I'll do my own thing." So I think he did his own little workout and whatever. Maybe it was a slight troll, but at this point, this man don't have to. Maybe the protest is working because I felt you got people like Jay-Z. Who are always looking for to make some money in the situation, linking up with NFL, and that's a different.
There you go.
A different day to try to pacify those you know, who
Mm-hmm.
that's a different conversation. How about that?
Right.
So we got people
yeah,
in the, go ahead, Matt.
Oh no, I just wanted to say, just to wrap it up on Kaepernick, you know, people are so offended because they love the flag, they love police, and you know, they love this traditional idea of what America is. But Kaepernick, even in the beginning of his protest, he was sitting down during the national anthem. Then there's a guy, Nate Boyer, who was a former military man. He worked with Kaepernick, and they said, okay, instead of sitting down, how about you kneel? So he adjusted and amended his protest just to be nicer to people, and they still didn't appreciate it. You know, if you love the flag so much, if you love America so much, you should love First Amendment rights to protest. But it goes to show that none of this is really about America or traditionalism. It's about their internalized racism and their hatred for Black people.
And that's pretty much systematic racism, which Emma was alluding to earlier, which is also another conversation for another day. White privilege, also a conversation for another day. White supremacy, also a conversation for another day. You know, it's like you come at it from all fronts, and then to just go what you were saying too about Kaepernick having to adjust his protests. You know what I'm saying? And then when other people was following suit, the other team owners were going after them, and then the team owners getting behind the scenes to try to ice this man out, and anybody else who supported him. You know what I'm saying? It lets you know it's a good. It's not only is it what we're gonna get into a little later. It's just not that. It's not just the white systematic racism. It's the cronyism. You know, my family, my son, my mom was a police officer, my father's father was a police officer, you know, and then you got all these family members, you know, like I told you, like my Kingdom Hall was, all these family members in the same hall oppressing the same people. You know what I'm saying? So, Molly, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, can I just say, if you, as a whatever colored person, because Black people, I've seen Black people also say all lives matter, which is like the craziest thing, but you know, anyway, so if you don't have a problem with the Boston Tea Party, with the November protest of what was his name, Guy Fawkes, if you don't have a problem with, because we have protests here too, and usually we actually come prepared with the umbrellas and the goggles and shit, because the police always finds a way to use tear gas. So usually if you protest here, you prepare to be tear gas. Anyway, so if you don't have a problem with the Boston Tea Party, you best not have problem with Kaepernick kneeling, with anyone kneeling or standing. I mean, what the hell is disrespectful? Kneeling is the most, I think, is one of the most subservient, respectful, and somber ways to commemorate something and to pay respect. That's what you do when you ask for a woman's hand in marriage. That's what you do when you're knighted. How much more respect do you fucking want for a flag, an arbitrary object?
Well, it's not really about respecting the flag. They want us to go back to the 60s,
right,
where we calling them sir, ma'am. You know, some of them. When I say them, I mean the races. I'm not talking about white people, because Black people, you know, there's a conversation about whether or not Black people can be racist, but we obviously, like Matt said, we're gonna stick to the subject today. Right, so let's go ahead and go to some of these scenes. Emma, you have for us. Let me see if I can set this up real quick. And it is. Oh, let me make sure I get the right one. Hang on. Don't want to get the wrong one. All right. So it is this one. We are going to show some of the pictures that Emma got together here. Emma, can you tell a little about what we're seeing here? Sorry.
Okay, well, that's the cop that kneeled on his neck, and like 8 minutes and 46 seconds, like.
Sorry.
And including 3 minutes when he'd actually stopped responding. Like, I watched that video and that was so disturbing. He was bleeding from the nose. onlookers were trying to tell him he's bleeding, he's dying, and the cop then just threatened to get mace out on them. It was ridiculous.
So this guy has 12 brutality complaints.
Mm-hmm.
2011, put on leave for inappropriate shooting of a masked Alaskan American native. 2008, shot an unarmed black man. Murdered a Latino man with 16 bullets, 42 rounds were shot. Oh my gosh.
Are you on page 2 now? Because I can only still see page 1.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why it didn't flip, but I'm over here almost in shambles. Hang on a second here. I'm reading the presentation. Nobody else did.
I thought I'd frozen then.
Maybe it's frozen. Okay, let me see. Let me try it again. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm like, wow. Hang on one second. Don't know why StreamYard did that to me.
I guess they heard the complaints about them being slow these days.
Oh yeah, and remember you told me that I need to shut up about that, right?
I'm sorry, y'all. I don't mean to take away from the seriousness of this situation.
Is this it here? You see it now?
The second one, yeah.
Okay, here we go. So yeah, this is what I was wowing and all in about. 12 brutality complaints. So, and this is all non-white people that this man has. Why do you need to shoot one man with 16 bullets by yourself for 14 rounds? One man. Okay, so the next one here is the Minnesota riots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, look at this picture. That people are with masks on. We are in an epidemic, and they still came out here to riot. That's crazy.
And I was watching the live with a guy with this last night, and he was trying to antagonise them a bit, but there was a few. That one particular guy, he got his hand on the wood batten thing, and his hands was twitching, and he was going from one foot to the other, and you can tell he was just like egging to go. He was willing somebody to step out of place who could go for him. And they brought in the National Guard as well.
Hey, Matt, do you remember pictures you used to see in school, Matt and Ramona, on the National Guard coming into our neighborhoods and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. This is what this reminds me of. My grandfather is turning over in his grave. He marched in the Freedom. I always forget the Freedom Riders, and he went to see.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, he was in local marches. He didn't go to march on Selma, but he was in the local marches that went on that day. I don't know. This is just striking. I haven't seen these pictures, so I'm in awe right now. This looked like
I saw it on the news. I saw it on the news this morning.
Look at this. Look like a scene out of the 60s. Look at all of these cops. All of them are not of color. That's why it reminds me of the old pictures, black and white pictures. Oh, what's happening here?
That's the CNN reporter.
Oh, this is what you were talking about, Emma? Oh, is he busting the window right here?
Yeah, he's the one that started smashing that auto place first.
It says, holy shit, the cop who started vandalizing was outed by people who knew him, the ex-wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It says, got shot to death, was turned out to be a business owner.
Oh, it hasn't saved the text properly.
Yeah. Why is this man taking a mannequin?
That's what I
know. On the live, they were saying to start with that they'd broke into the shops and they'd nicked loads of them plastic trolleys to make a barricade because they said they'd come armed and the police were shooting at them, so they got a barricade first.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, the man with the mannequin may have needed a date for the night or something.
I know, that's right. They got drawers all on the floor, y'all. They ain't clean. They just... All right.
Question. Because
AutoZone. Sorry. Why am I so concerned about AutoZone? I don't know. It's just shocking to me.
But I watched another live after this last night, and a guy was driving through the town, and people have been putting signs on their buildings saying "black owned," we support Black Lives Matter, because they're obviously all terrified that they're going to get all their businesses burnt down.
Right.
Wow, this is crazy to
Emma,
see this.
Emma, in the UK, do your police officers have guns? I'm just curious.
No, they have tasers.
Okay.
It's probably rare at like an airport they'll have a gun, but it's normally batons and tasers. Yeah.
I remember when Charlie Hebdo, when the Charlie Hebdo thing was happening. Then I saw like military personnel and like anti-terrorist agents running around with their ARs, but usually are cops. Like I've seen two just yesterday, and they stopped me because because bike stuff. Like I rode my bike somewhere where I wasn't supposed to. It was benevolent. Anyway, they stopped me, and I checked because I I was like, okay, I'm paying attention to you, but I'm just checking out your side. Do you have a gun? Out of curiosity. And then I Googled as well. And here, some of them have tasers, but usually they just have a baton. That's it, a baton. And
We have armed response team though.
Yeah,
so
we do
very
have that
serious, like hostage situation and stuff like that. Then there will have like an armed response team.
I'm gonna say interject for just a moment here. How can I say this? A baton ain't gonna work in Detroit. I'll tell you that right now, because they got more guns than the police.
Yeah,
so we just got different. American is different. Yeah, I'm just.
Because
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, but yeah, in some of urban neighborhoods, they have more guns than the police, and some of them are not legal. So, I mean, you would think like batons and stuff like that. They come in batons, and they'll get laughed out of the hood if they.
And pepper spray. I think they use that quite a lot. Pepper spray.
Right.
Pepper spray goes
Right, they come in.
They need guns.
But at the same time, I just want to talk about the terror, and I wanted to talk about this when Simon was here and he had to go, Matt. So why don't you? I get terror when we get stopped because I'm afraid for my husband. Do you do like us? Are you always looking in the rear view mirror?
Always.
For cops.
Always. I mean, I when I drive, I normally put on the Waze app because it tells you where the police are. And I'm always very cautious. You know, when I see police car, I make sure I slow down. I'm under the speed limit, you know, just so I don't have any issues whatsoever. Because I was just saying to someone in a Facebook comment the other day, you know, a lot of people think that you have to look suspicious for a cop to bother you. That's not true. Because I used to be a fully decked out Jehovah's Witness in a suit and tie, and the police would stop me, you know, pull me over, question me. You know, I'm clearly not looking any kinds of dangerous, but I used to get hassled by police all the time.
So the reason why I asked you that too, because I mean, as a Black woman, you know, you get that too, but not on the level of a Black man, because we have to send our men out of here. And I just want to get this thing that I've been hearing from people who are not Black people, and I'm going to make a extra difference here. Black people who were sons and daughters of slaves here. When you say things like, "Oh, well, you should have just complied," no, you don't have to comply with somebody that we don't know chasing us down, trying to act like they're the police. Because this is when Trayvon's case, and I don't know the other guy who got chased down as a jogger.
Ahmad, what's his name?
Ahmad
he had a Muslim, Ahmad Arbery.
Yeah, but here's the thing: back in the day, any white person could stop you and say, "Hey, nigger, where are you going?" And you would have to say, "Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am." You know, to any white person. And as some of these people, some of the white people who are racist, they still have that mindset because we used to walk in back doors and used to do this. They still feel like that when they stop you, you need to answer.
Yeah.
And we don't. We don't have to these Barney Fives and Keystone Cop caper cops and want to be Batmans, jumping on people like they vigilante superheroes or something like that, trying to save the white neighborhood from the black people jogging. I don't know. Whatever it is y'all got going on, we don't have to comply.
Spencer, you can tell when you walk into because here blacks are minority here where I live. So if I walk into a restaurant or somewhere where it's predominantly whites, like only about 2 miles from me, there's a ice cream place called Fuzzy's. And this was one time when I was on field service and we were working the neighborhood. So we stopped in Fuzzy's, which is an ice cream shop, and they sell hamburgers and everything to get something. And we were black. We walked in there, everybody's head turned. They looked at us like they were ready to hang us on a stake. And I told the sister that I was working with, I'm like, there's no way I'm buying anything from here. I fear for my life. I could tell I didn't belong.
Hey, me and my husband, there's still places here because even though our area is becoming more integrated, there's just certain places I can tell how they look. I'm not going in there, and I'm not going to even say. But I know that I'm not the only black person that does that. So the Atlanta riots. Wow, this picture is stunning because it looks like there are black people on both sides of the aisle here because Atlanta is a mecca center for black people, businesses and everything. I'm just hoping we're not about to see some stuff getting burnt down. But anyway, we might be. So Emma, you want to tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here? Oh my goodness. Emma, can you hear me?
I think she's on mute.
Sorry, I was still on mute. Yeah, that first picture was the CNN building.
Oh, let me see if I can go back. Oh, it was slide 12 or 11?
Yeah, that was a lineup because they were like smashing all the windows and that. But as you said, there was some people of color in the lineup in the Atlanta and Minnesota. So obviously they were getting talkings to from the protesters.
Right. Wow, they graffitied up the CNN.
Yeah. They were smashing all the windows. They completely trashed it.
You see these people right here? Is that safe? Is that it right there? Or
it might have been. I've probably not deleted the last blank slide now.
No. You're fine. You're fine.
I'm rushing trying to get it done.
No, but what's crazy is I have some friends, like, we are a university town where I live, and I'm not naming my town because it's a small town and I am no one to know whose son and daughter I am without reason. So anyway, we have a lot of like minority students who come here especially to learn to become doctors. And you would think that it's a noble thing to do, which of course it praise the doctors and nurses and all the essential workers, still keep the world running. A round of applause for them, for real. And I have a friend, and he's from Iran originally, and he used to be a practicing Muslim, but by the time he got here, he wasn't anymore. And we met through school, and he wound up having to go to an unknown part of town for him, and he saw 3 cops walking. So he stopped them and said, yo, can you help me? Where's the bus stop? And they dragged him to the police station and kept him overnight because he asked where the bus stop is. Now, guess what? What's funny is the only thing he did, have a hooked nose and a skin that could look like a tan white person and the frizzy hair. He doesn't even look Middle Eastern, really. Like his nose does, and maybe his hair if you're really stereotypical and racist. But all he did was speak in English to 3 cops.
And the sad thing about it is that racism is universal.
And Mamona, and speaking to that, I'll just say here, racist white people if you're not white, you're black, you Negro. I don't care. They don't care if you're
Yeah.
Muslim. They don't care if you Arab. They don't care if you're nothing. If you're black, you're black.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I just read an article in the New York Times about this was before all this happened, about how Italians became white in America. Did you know that Italians used to get called nigger as well?
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
did not know that.
102.
Yeah.
So at some point in America, because they started making money and building up
Yeah.
their communities, it talked about how, and this was actually a person of not a color who actually wrote this article, talked about how Jews and Italians became white in America because at
Mm-hmm.
some
Yeah.
point they weren't. But I just like to
Mm-hmm.
also say, even though people who come over from overseas don't have the black experience because they look black, they get treated like like uh,
Yeah,
us who are sons of slaves and
Mm-hmm.
daughters of slaves. Go ahead, Matt.
I was just about to talk about that. The CNN reporter who was arrested, Omar Jimenez, he's Hispanic, but he's
Mm-hmm.
clearly Afro Latino person. He's black.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his parents may not have been raised in America, but clearly he is being treated like people who are African American, and I can speak to that because my father's side of the family is from the Dominican Republic, so I understand both sides of the coin. Having some family who are black immigrants, and then my mother's side of the family is African American, but it doesn't really matter in America. When it comes to racist people, they otherize people. So if
Mm-hmm.
you are not an Anglo-Saxon white person, you are generally considered other. And as
Mm-hmm.
Mentor mentioned, they even do that to Jews. They treat Jews
Mm-hmm.
as an other. They treat Italians as an other. And it's just, it's sad to see, but that's just the reality. If you are not a certain type of white person, you are treated as other.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Would you
That is so true.
would you guess would you guess that Hungarians were also people of color? Because we
No,
have
I didn't know that.
apparently we have strong accents, and I read a little bit about it, but it's limited information due to history and all that. But basically Hungarians were classed as people of color because we had strong weird accents and
Mm.
a weird culture with like dragons and shit. So they were like, okay, y'all ain't white, and basically classed us
Mm.
as of color, which is like, okay, I guess.
It's just
I see a lot of that here in New York City because people normally assume, oh, New York City, it's the most diverse place on earth. It must be great. No, it's very
yeah.
racist, and part of the racism is that people segregate themselves so much because there are
Mm-hmm.
areas in New York City that I'm not trying to walk through. I don't want any problems over there because of the well-known racism there, and it's
Mm.
going to Molly's point, it's interesting how even amongst certain white people, they say, oh, well, these are the Polish are over here, or the Russians are over here, the Hungarians are over here, and they treat them different from the American born white people, whether they have Irish roots, German roots, British roots, whatever, but they treat the Eastern Europeans way different than they treat the Western Europeans. And it's just interesting to
Mm-hmm.
see that.
And what I think was also interesting is that, you know, I guess the discrimination among themselves. But I'm gonna say something that's actually kind of off topic because just to make sure that I don't want to say balanced and fair because that reminds me of a certain station that I watch. But uh, Matt, Ramona, uh, you probably know the colorism that exists even within our own community.
I was thinking the same
Talk
thing. You
about
took
it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
we, even if our shades are closer to the white, because at some point I'm just gonna give. I'm not gonna get brother man on you, but I just want to give a little history because I know I have a. They call me what they call me, Shanna X. I'm not Shanna X. I wish. I would say that you know, in the time, because this is important, because we have a multi-platform where there are people all over the country, all over the world, and they just don't know the history of slavery here in America. Systemic racism here in America because of the slavery of them kidnapping us and bringing us over here. When there were plantations here, and there's some, you can still visit them here in the South. Interesting to talk to some tour guides, both black and white, when white people go visit the plantations down south versus black people, because they have more fonder memories. And one tour guide said, the white person said, "Do we really have to hear about slavery? Can we just hear about the cotton gins?" As if picking cotton and slavery don't even go together. But anyway, when the houses, they used to call the master's house the big house. And when slave masters or owners, of course, black people didn't have control over their own bodies. They would rape black women. No consent, obviously, at all. Mistreat them or
Look at the
whatever.
color of my skin. This is a product of slavery.
Yes. And so the white children, or the mixed biracial children that look white, could stay in the big house with the master and his children, even though they had slave quarters. But the darker skinned children would have to go out and work in the fields. So that's where you get the term house Negro. A lot of, I mean, I'm not gonna go too deep because there's a debate on, you know, whether that came from us or whether it came from those who enslaved us. But in any event, those who look more white were more appreciated and more represented in our community. Even when we start getting into film, they will only put lighter skinned blacks. Girl, this, you know what? Y'all don't know if y'all remember this, because I don't even want. I'm gonna come back from memory lane, because you know, I remember this movie called Imitation of Life.
Yep.
Okay,
very
so
well. I watch it all the time.
and it may still make me cry when the So back then, some of the lighter skinned blacks had more film roles and stuff like that, and then they would tell you that the darker skinned black used to have to play maids and servants and stuff like that. So to make a long story short, the slaves, because of the institutionalized racism, and those were all the images that they saw, and because the lighter skinned blacks would get treated better, ate the better food, was closer to the master, would call these people house Negroes or Uncle Tom. Again, there's also a debate on whether or not Uncle Tom actually originated with us or originated somewhere else. So the colorism is generational, even today.
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak to that because, you know, as I mentioned, my mother's family is African American, but my father's family is from the Dominican Republic. And that colorism is, I mean, it's, you know, if you talk to Latino people, it is, you know, crazy. My father, he's of a lighter complexion. And so in DR, they would call him Habao, which basically means someone who is very light skinned but has African features. And, you know, it's crazy because obviously there was slavery over there as well in the Caribbean. And they had a caste system like many other places based on color, you know, and it wasn't official by law, but just like here, people who are of a certain complexion are treated differently. And, you know, even when it comes to, you know, the topic that we're talking about, police brutality, sometimes when people are stopped by police, it's because they assume certain things based on their skin color. People who are black but are considered more racially ambiguous may not have the stories that some darker skinned black people do when it comes to dealing with the police, because police may not assume the things that they would assume of the average black person, because they say, oh, well, they're lighter. They may not be black. They may be of some other ethnicity or some other race. But darker skinned people often talk about, you know, how they are treated worse in many different ways, but specifically speaking to police brutality.
I like to say that my mom is a dark skinned black and hates dark skinned blacks. It's because she grew up in an era where she got picked on. My mother had really pretty long ebony hair that flowed all the way down her back, beautiful ebony skin. But she grew up in an era where she saw Lena Hornes and Whitley Gilbert. I don't want to say she's not in the same caliber, but you get what I'm saying. These type of characters on TV, and she thought beauty look like that. And so she would be nicer to her lighter skinned children. And I don't sound crazy. She would be nicer to some of her lighter skinned children. And I have a sister who was darker skinned, and she's the same complexion as my mom. And it will bug her half to that. So colorism is now reaching overseas, because now if you look at some of these documentaries, a lot of filmmakers are documenting the fact that even Jamaicans, the Jamaicans have been on the front of this, are lightening their skin to the point it is killing them, because they want to be white. They want to, and it's only lightening in their faces and their hands. But whatever, they're using products that are killing themselves, taking the melanin out of their skin, and they live in really high places
It's
and
crazy.
they get cancer.
You don't really realize it all the time, but like I was talking to my wife about this not so long ago. When I was younger, and I didn't realize this, it didn't become apparent to me until years later. When I was younger, I didn't like the show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because I viewed Will Smith as like a goofy character. I didn't take him serious.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked Saved by the Bell. And Zach Morris was like my favorite dude. It wasn't until years later that I realized, like, I took Zach Morris as more, respectable because he was a white dude. Because when you look at the characters, if anyone have seen those shows, Zach Morris and Will Smith, from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they're basically the same kind of television character. They're the ladies' man who's very jovial, always getting into trouble. It's the same kind of character. So there was no reason for me to not like Will Smith's character. But a lot of that had to do with colorism. And I just naturally took Zach Morris or Mark Paul Gosselaar's character as more respectable because he was white. And, I had this...
Interesting.
I felt that way as a little kid. And it wasn't until I became older that I realized that I was analyzing it that way.
Hey, so Matt, don't feel that way. Bad about that, because we all grow in our journey. Because when I was younger, I refused to play with a black Barbie doll.
Wow.
See,
I just thought she was ugly.
Opposite. You guys were opposite from me, because I experienced colorism growing up and didn't know why. Because the darker skinned people wanted to beat me up, So, and I wanted to be accepted, and I thought the darker skin was the most beautiful, and I wanted to be darker. And so I gravitated to anything that had African American in it, Black in, and I looked up to them. I admired them, because it was like I felt I was lost because I didn't like the color of my skin, and people wouldn't realize I was called the house nigger. I worked in the prosecutor's office, and we would get people calling up there, and there was another girl who worked with me. She was even lighter than me, and we would be those two house niggers out front. We got this. And I fought all the time because of the color of my skin. I had to fight the Black people. I had to fight the white people.
Well, it's almost your fight. If you're a lighter skinned Black, your fight is not only with the white people, it's with the people, sometimes in your own community. But I like to also say that I don't even know if I should even touch on this. But there is also instances where, we or Black people need to be careful that we don't inflict the same harm that we've been inflicted upon. I remember an activist, I won't say his name, earlier this year, last year, whatever, got upset over something, which I won't say, and called me a token.
I know who you talking about too.
And all because he was calling my friend Mayo, a bunch of other white discriminatory. Okay, I didn't want to say your name, Emma. But yeah, he was calling Emma Mayo and a bunch of other derogatory names that he was really coming for her race.
Why is he?
I didn't know. I saw it.
Me racist. He was calling me racist for no reason, but at the same time calling me mayonnaise ass. Like,
yeah, I saw that.
Like, I've learned now, it's another subject, so I've learned the difference between racism and discrimination. But you can't discriminate against me while calling me racist. It doesn't make sense. And the fact that he said that to you, Spencer, that upset and insulted me, that he called you my token friend.
Yeah, called me her token black friend. He told me
we get called that.
Yeah,
we
because
get
if you're
called
around
that.
if you're around too many white people, you get suspicious. They get some people in our community get suspicious. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
I've
know. That's
heard that
just how
about
they
me
are.
a lot too.
But at the same time, I like to say that, I got friends. That's one thing about being a Jehovah's Witness. That's one thing that we all share. I mean, even though it was racism in the Watchtower, we just talked about some instances. We were more diverse in our churches than most people churches I've seen, because like it's usually an all black church on the corner or all white church. I don't know if they should have integrated our particular congregation because it didn't go over well. But I can only imagine, here in America, people don't really notice some white Jehovah's Witnesses, but the congregations were segregated here in America. There were black congregations in the South, and then there were white congregations in the South.
I've had ex-JWs in my group tell me that they wasn't allowed to give talks in certain congregations because they were black.
Yeah.
Well, I spoke. Oh,
wow.
Really? Well, I spoke with an older sister. This was like my waking up period, about 2018, and we had gone out to eat after a meeting, and she was talking about back in the 60s when they would go to the assemblies, and the white friends would sit toward the front of the assembly halls, and then the back of the assembly halls were reserved for the black people, and they were instructed not to mix with the races, to keep it segregated. And this is true, but I was shocked to hear this because I wasn't, born during her time. But I do remember them giving a talk one time when it came to interracial marriages and relationships. And it was in the publications asking us to basically stick to our own race when it comes to marriage, saying that it'll cause a lot of social issues, that in order to keep from experiencing certain things, we should basically marry our own. And this watchtower was in the 90s when they were talking about this.
Hey, y'all, you know what? Ramona and Matt, y'all gonna have to come back because the glass table is doing a special episode. But no, I mean to say that I'm off the plug, girl. I'm not cutting you off. We're having an episode called "Racism in the Watchtower" during Black History Month, which is around my birthday.
I got stories for days.
Well, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna keep it all the way real. So we are going to move to the portion.
I'm up for it.
Okay, please come back.
Well,
go ahead, Emma.
One of my best friends and her younger sister, who I grew up with, were Jamaican, and I'm glad that I never saw anyone be racist to them, because I would not have stood for that, like, at all. And it's shocking, the stories I've heard since leaving.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll talk about it. That is a conversation to have. So make sure y'all come back for that. But I want to move to the portion because we're at 1.5 hours in our stream, and I know we can talk about this all day. We have some pictures that Emma put together as a visual for the person in question here. I don't want to say in question because it sounds like so police forcey, but I don't know I can't say. I don't remember his name. I mean, Molly, before we move on to that, you want to say something real quick?
Yeah. So I wanted to say about like colorism because basically my mother, her best friends, my sister, like everyone in my family, every female other than me tans their skin, which is cool. That's cool. Tan your skin if you want to. Like, I wish I could tan because I think I'm super pale, and sometimes that makes me look unhealthy. I had that comment many times that you look sick. Are you okay? Are you okay? And it can get a bit annoying. So, but whatever. And yet they tan, and my mother is about the color Spencer is. She's that tan, fake tan, obviously. And yet they are racist towards the big minority that we have here is gypsies, and basically they are white, but the only difference is they have some catchwords that Hungarians don't really use unless you're poorly educated or something, and I don't see how the beauty industry, and Spencer and I have been having conversations about that, how pigmentation in makeup and the beauty industry representation of
Yeah,
darker
because
skin tones.
the when it becomes blackface, I think that's where we're going with this. Was when
Uh,
you using our color and misappropriating our color for clout. Whether you are
Mm-hmm.
doing
yes,
it for
that.
Halloween, let me just say this, Molly. Whether you're doing it for blackface for Halloween, none of it's ever.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say this to people, my white brothers and sisters. It's never appropriate for you to ever
Mm-mm,
wear blackface in any setting whatsoever, and none of this.
Mm-mm.
Well, why can't we? Blah blah blah. And what? No, no,
Mm-mm.
no. It's never
mm-mm.
appropriate. And
It's
I,
horrible.
what they're calling these YouTubers who are beauty influencers who are tanning themselves to look black to catfish black men.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're addressing. Some people, like with me, cultural misappropriation is a big topic because you can culturally misappropriate. Is that the word? Any culture. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't even have to be black
Mm-hmm.
culture. Asians
Mm-hmm.
had a problem with Nicki Minaj, even though we love Chung Lee and we grew up with Street Fighter and all of that. They had a problem with her putting the
Yep.
chopsticks in her hair and all of that kind of
Yep.
stuff. You
They
have to
sure
just be
did.
careful of people's culture. And then when you ripping somebody's culture off for clout and making money off of it, where the person that actually has the color is marginalized, counted out, left out,
Mm-hmm.
and ain't getting a dime from it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we can talk all day long about whether or not Elvis copied James Brown, or we can talk all or uh, the misappropriation of our music or our clothing, rap culture, which
Mm-hmm.
oh, I can go all day long about the rap culture,
Well,
but
they said Kim Kardashian started those braids that time that we have been wearing all our lives.
right, and well, she does a lot of cultural misappropriation,
I know.
a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Before
and
we
that's what
move
I
on,
don't understand.
go ahead, Molly.
That's what I don't understand. Like, my mother is by all fucking means a racist ass. I'm sorry. Luckily, she doesn't speak English, so I'm safe. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so basically, I don't understand. Why do you want to look like a black person in your skin tone? And she had them cornrows last year for my sister's wedding, and I actually called her out on it, saying, "Do you know the history of black hair? Did a black person do this? No. A white bitch did it, who was taught by another white bitch." And I, I guess it's not my place to be outraged about that, but I still was, because she
You
don't
have
know
a
no
right to be
history.
outraged.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing. One of the things that maybe Matt and Ramona and Emma, Molly can all attest to this. Not even with our own ex Jehovah with the witness activism, allies are important. You can't
Yeah,
ask. We're not asking the watchtower to change. Please, please, please. We have to force the watchtower to change, and we all know why.
yeah,
Because they won't change on their own. They ain't been doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the same thing with our issues. It's not enough to be not racist, white people, brothers and sisters. You have to be anti-racist. There is a
Mm-hmm.
difference. You have to not
exactly.
allow it in your speech, in your everyday speech. You have to, when somebody says the N word around you, you have to be an ally, a true ally. And
Mm-hmm.
that's it's important. So with this particular picture here, it's just unnerving. It looks like the visuals and everything are out already. We got candles, you guys. If you guys want to take out candles to as a visual,
I'm still
yeah.
trying to see it.
I don't know if you can see mine or not.
Um,
And we're just gonna
I'm
in silence. We're just gonna go through the pictures here. So give me one moment here. Before we read off these names, wow, Emma, I just want to say you have the way you put together this show today. I just want to thank you. You hit every high note. I'm fighting back tears right now
I was
because
just
this
making
could be my
honestly.
son. This could be my husband. It could be Matt. It could be somebody Ramona know. It can be any of us on this on panel because it's not just black people out here protesting it. It's white people out here too that's outraged who are allies. So, Emma, I'm not gonna get through these names, so I'm gonna ask you to read them off.
I'll try. I'm sorry if I butcher any names. I'm really sorry. Okay, so unarmed undead. Trayvon Martin, Keith Scott, Atiana Jefferson, Jonathan Farrell, Jordan Edwards, Stefan Clark, Amadou Diallo, Renisha McBride, Tamir Rice, Sean Bell, Walter Scott, Philando Castile, Ayana Jones, Terence Crutcher, Elton Sterling, Freddie Gray, John Crawford, Michael Brown, Jordan Davis, Sandra Bland, Bothan Jean, Oscar Grant, Corey Jones, Ahmed Aubrey.
I think. Sorry, give me a moment here. Y'all, we cry at the glass table, Matt. We cry at the glass table. I'm sorry.
That's all right. All right.
It's not your typical round table.
That's a good thing. Let that emotion out.
Oh my God.
It's really hard to see these names, y'all. It's really hard to see these names.
What saddens me is this is 2020.
Yes.
We can't catch a break.
Not even in a pandemic, y'all. Not even in a
No.
pandemic.
You look at some of those names. You know, I remember Amadou Diallo here in New York City. I remember Sean Bell being killed. I remember.
Oh my God, I remember Sean Bell. They shot him so many times, y'all.
Yeah.
It was the night before his wedding.
Right, exactly. And, you know, some of these people who are named here, they were killed, you know, years ago. And as Ramona mentioned, it's 2020 and we're still hearing about this in the same manner over and
Well,
over.
the thing is that I posted this on my page. Being black in America shouldn't equal a death sentence. It shouldn't.
Bothan Jean, a few months ago, he was sat in his own apartment eating ice cream.
And we still don't know what happened to Sandra Bland. She was in that jail cell. I'm sorry, y'all. You know, look, I'm going to try to keep it together here. It's 2020 and we're still dealing with this, y'all. And these pictures that we saw today look like something out of the 60s. So I don't want to hear, we elected a black president. Racism. I mean, you elected a black. Go ahead.
It's open season. It's open season on black people. You know, it's just like we're considered, our lives don't matter. We walk out, and if somebody's in a bad mood that day and they see us, they carry guns and they shoot us for the color of our skin. Sandra Bland, when you mentioned her, that broke my heart. This woman got arrested for no reason, and they took her photo, her mugshot, while she was dead. They propped her up and opened her eyes, and you could see the death. That could be me. That could be you, Spencer. Just driving down the road and end up losing your life. And this is an educated woman. We are educated. We are contributing to our societies we live in. Just because of the color of my skin, I am not a thug when I drive in my car, when I walk in the grocery store. I remember being in Payless Shoe Store, which is out of business now, thank goodness. I'm in Payless Shoe Store. being followed down every aisle I go because the girl thought I want to steal a pair of cheap shoes till I called her out on it. I made more money than she did. I had a better job than she did. But yet she looked at me as if I'm going to steal a $7 pair of shoes.
Oh, they'll follow you in the store in a minute. I had to check a store owner the other day. This black kid came in there with a backpack on, put the backpack at the door because they had this long list, anything that you wearing, basically black people, of stuff that you can't wear before you go in the store. You can't wear hoodies. You can't wear this. You can this stuff black people wear. This man could not take his eye off this little boy trying to get some bag of chips to serve me. So I said, "Why are you following you?" When this white guy walked in here, you did not go. I said, "You don't have to go through all of that because I saw what you did. I see what you're doing, and it takes us to speak up and speak out. You know what I'm saying? To check people because a lot of them don't have a lot of context, especially immigrants, of our experience here, and they work in our neighborhoods. They take our money and treat us just as bad. So we have to, demand more. You know what I'm saying? And ask more. And it's not that we're not doing that already. Hopefully, change will happen. Maybe I'm hoping. I know my parents said this 30 years from now that the world won't be a dangerous place for people that look like me. So on that note, we're going to actually end our stream. We want to thank everybody for joining us. We went through all of you comments. Thank you, Linda, who has been commenting all day since you've been hanging with us.
Them.
yes. The UK she said we're standing together with you all. We thank you for all of those allies, all of those who are out there. Thank you, Matt and Ramona, for joining us on the glass table today. You guys are going to come back for the racism episode in February, right? Because I done already got you to hold you to it on screen.
Yes,
on live.
Don't
make me play back the tape.
Yes.
Matt, you'll be with us next week on the favorite YouTubers. So if you want to see more of Matt, he's going to be joining Victoria Glasso from UK. Also, and we might get a special guest. I'm not going to give it away because if they don't come, I don't want y'all to say why they didn't. Y'all be satisfied with people. No, I'm just joking. That we have on the glass table. And also, if you want to be guests, it's really easy. We have a guest book now. Emma, you want to tell them a little bit about how we arrange it? It's new, but if you go ahead.
Yeah, if you go onto our events that we're putting out, you can schedule or I think it's appear as a guest or something or book. I can't remember how it words it, but if you click on that button, you can book it and then we can make sure that you're definitely gonna come on as a guest.
Yes, so
I want to hug Molly. Molly got so much pain in her eyes. I just wish I could reach out and hug her.
Molly, let's give Molly a virtual hug, y'all. Virtual hug, Molly.
I want to hug you all because.
Wait, how you do that heart?
Oh yeah, there we go. Mine look like a pork chop.
I have been since Trump got elected, and legitimately, I have Black Muslim friends in the U.S. who were exchange students with me, who slept in my bed, and I am terrified for their lives every fucking day. And yours lives.
We love you, Molly. We love you
because your lives matter. And it shouldn't be said that yes, just because now I'm saying Black lives matter, it doesn't detract from the fact that brown and everything in between lives also matter. But just for a second, please step outside of that ego of yours and just say Black lives matter. We're talking about Black people for a second here.
I feel you, Molly. I've got cousins that are half Jamaican, and I always dread that anything would ever happen to them because of the colour of the skin. And they've got children with multiracial as well, and it's just like,
it's crazy.
Thank you.
So you guys, we're gonna sign off. I'm gonna ask that you guys don't click off real quick because I want to talk to y'all backstage. And we saying backstage because the application calls it backstage. It's not like we think you Oprah child. Okay, so it's just what they call it. We call it that too. So we're gonna sign off and say bye to everybody. See you later.
Thanks for joining us.